Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Baldwin. Robert Mueller, you are on the clock, or that's at least what President Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, would like you to think. President Trump's legal team is telling the special counsel to wrap up the Russia investigation within the next 3 weeks, or else. Or else what? That is not entirely clear. But this is part of the very latest round in the game of cat and mouse that has been playing out for months and months and months about the possibility of Trump sitting down for an interview with the special counsel. Giuliani says it's now Mueller's move, with a deadline fast approaching. To try to make sense of it, Seth Waxman, criminal defense attorney and former federal prosecutor, and CNN senior political analyst Mark Preston. Mark, let's start with the politics of this, because I feel like it's more than the legal side of this at this point. No offense, Seth. Because it does seem like more of a PR strategy right now than a legal one. What is Rudy Giuliani up to, Mark?
Well, he's doing a couple things. One is he's continuing to try to create an incredible amount of white noise around this situation, try to bring doubt into this investigation. If you heard him over and over again saying, look, Mueller has all the information. If he wants to, pursue something against the president, then he should do so. What's wrong with that logic and that thinking is that Mueller it's not his goal to try to go out and find if Donald Trump did something wrong. That isn't his goal. His goal is to find out if there was any collusion with Russia in between the campaign, as well as what other things happened around that. So what you're hearing from the Trump folks and the Trump supporters is they're acting like this is Mueller's sole goal is to try to get the president. That is absolutely not the case. But Rudy Giuliani and other surrogates for the president and lawyers are going to continue to do so to try to create an atmosphere that is very divisive, against this investigation.
Seth, Giuliani told NPR yesterday that, in his view, this kind of counter offer that they sent back, they say that this may be the last best chance, is how Giuliani put it, for Mueller to get an interview with Donald Trump. What do you think that means? What does that mean to you?
Well, I see this whole dance that we've been watching for months as kind of a sham on both sides. Donald Trump does not want to be in the room with Bob Mueller and his investigators. This is like he's heading out to the playground to the fight, and he's telling his friends to hold him back. But on the other side, Bob Mueller, in my opinion, doesn't want to be in that room right now either. Federal prosecutors want to wait till the end of their investigation to question their subject or target. And most importantly, they want to accumulate all the evidence, including their key cooperators that they haven't yet brought into the fold. People like Paul Manafort or Michael Cohen or Roger Stone. If Mr. Manafort were to flip after this trial, if he were convicted, for example, Mr. Manafort could potentially walk the president or Mr. Mueller through his conversations with the president before, during, and after that Trump Tower meeting. That is critical information for the prosecution to be in the room with the president and question him on. So, I see this dance is going on, through the election, through the end of the year. I tell people to sit back and relax, enjoy their summer. I think there'll be a grand jury subpoena after the new year that will be challenged. It will go to the Supreme Court. It's my opinion that Mueller wins that fight, but I think this is still a long road, and we're going to see this dance continue on.
Seth likes to dance, because we're going to get your dancing shoes on, Seth, because it is continuing. Mark, Giuliani is making the case that they would like to have it wrapped up by September, but also tells CNN that if this goes beyond that, he thinks it's good for them. In his view, he told Dana Bash that nothing would energize Republicans more than let's save the president, in terms of saying that obviously this continues. Do polls bear that out, do you think?
I don't necessarily buy that that is necessarily going to energize Republicans. What it will do is it will energize a certain segment of the Republican base, and that is, the 33 to 37 to 38% people who look at the president and are diehard supporters. When we talk about the president's approval rating, Kate, we always talk about him being in the high 80s and into the 90s, okay? Those are folks who think that he's doing well with policy. That doesn't mean that those are the same folks that are going to come out and vote for a congressman or a senator because Donald Trump tells them to do so. Look what happened up in Ohio this past week. We saw a Democrat contest a seat and quite frankly, could potentially win that seat in an area that has been very strongly Republican. So I think when we look at that, you have to look at all of the politics of it all. I think Rudy Giuliani, by saying that, is trying to energize a certain part of Donald Trump's base, and also, again, to try to cast any kind of divisiveness in questioning anything that has to do with this investigation.
On the point of what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed in an interview, Seth, when Giuliani says that he doesn't want anything to be included that would be a perjury trap, Giuliani suggests that would include questions like, what did you say about Flynn and why did you fire Comey? If those are off limits, I mean, do you think Mueller would ever agree to conduct an interview and not ask about these central themes?
Absolutely not. No federal prosecutor is going to limit themselves that way. And this idea of a perjury trap is just a red herring. I'll tell you, from the Department of Justice perspective, a perjury trap at its base is when a federal prosecutor does not have a basis in law or fact to interview a person because they don't believe there are charges, yet they bring that person in simply to try to catch them in a lie. The example that has come up, in my experience, is that when a prosecutor immunizes a person, in other words, they'll never be charged with the substantive crime, be it murder, bank fraud, or whatever, and then the prosecutors hear that person's out telling others, friends or associates, that they didn't commit the crime. And the prosecutors want to bring that person in just to hear what they have to say on that point, knowing full well they can never charge that person. That's a perjury trap, where there's no basis to ever bring a charge, because there's immunization in that case. You know, here, Mueller's got this investigation. By all accounts, it's legitimate. Rod Rosenstein has said it's legitimate. So the best way to avoid a perjury trap, or what Mr. Giuliani is most concerned about, and maybe the president, just don't lie.
It's a good suggestion. I'll take it to heart, especially when I've got to do this interview next. Good to remember. Things to live by. Great to see you, Mark. Great to see you, Seth. Thank you.